Sir, Amit sir, am I audible?
Very much audible, ma'am. Am I audible?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, I will start with the introduction.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. Good morning, dear participants. We have today Dr. Ananta Prabhuji with us. He has done his Masters of Technology after completing his Bachelor of Engineering and Masters in Administration, Diploma in Cyber Law, Doctor of Philosophy, and postdoctoral fellow also. And his areas of interest are cybercrime investigation, cyber law. Workshops conducted are more than 1,500, and he is a trainer for Karnataka Judicial Academy Bangalore, Karnataka Police Academy Mysore, Police Training School Gulbarga, Mangalore City Police. An administrator, he is for Cybercrime Knowledge Group Judiciary, Cybercrime Knowledge Group for Police, Cybercrime Knowledge Group for Public Prosecutors. And he has published more than 20 international journals, and he is also published some of the books like Little Black Book for Teachers, Little Black Book for Students, I Own the Monk's Ferrari, Glorious Bharat Part 1 and 2, The Text Message That Killed Me, Cyber Safeguard Volume 3, The Samurai Who Sold His Suzuki, My Grandfather's Lantern. Job profile is he is working as a professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering in Sahyadri College of Engineering and Management. We welcome you for the session. Today's title is Basics of Drone Forensics. So on behalf of Gopalan College of Engineering, I welcome Dr. Ananta Prabhuji for this session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. And
Thank you, sir.
thanks to each and everyone who are present here, who are interested to know more about this wonderful world of drones. So, before I get started, let me just put on the presenter. Just give me a second. Is the presentation screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So, let's get started. Well, today for the next 1.5 hours, I would be talking about the basics of drones and the forensics associated with it. So, in the year 2010, we have seen there is a helicopter, there is a pilot, there is a cameraman, and there is a camera. And everything got replaced by one single drone in the year 2020. I mean, in 2015 only it had got replaced because we had some of the best drones by 2015 itself. But of lately, we also have drones that are autonomous, which are available for commercial purposes. Because earlier it was only available for military and other defense personnel, but right now we have drones which can be programmed. Okay, we can program these drones and we can tell them what are their boundaries with regard to the GPS coordinates and what it needs to do. So programmable drones are there which can just go complete the task come, and these drones do not require a remote pilot. So the remote assistance of a pilot is not required. It is straight away. You can just send the drone and it goes and comes back. So which means in 10 years, all these things have got replaced, isn't it so? So it is time for all of us to upgrade ourselves because drone is going to be these drones, they're going to be the future. So almost each and everything that we see around will have an aspect of drone with it. For example, you must be seeing in US in some of the places, the Domino's pizza delivery is happening via drones. isn't it so? Also, we have seen many instances, especially during this COVID times, the police, they were using drones for the drones with loudspeakers, where whenever there was a containment zone, the police could not go there and they could give the notification. So what they used to do is they used to send the drones with loudspeakers, and with the wireless mic, the person used to stand away and used to talk, and the loudspeaker would convey the message to the people. So this is how drones have been used. And also in one of the states, drones were also used during COVID times, during the lockdown, to transport, I think, the Rajnigandha Pan Masala. So drones were used for transporting contraband substances, and even drones are also used for delivery of drugs and other weapons to the prisons in many countries. So drones, just like how we have the positives, there are also the negatives. So I can say drones are nothing but double-edged swords. So just like how you have the advantages, the flip side disadvantages are also there. Now, before I begin, there are a few terms that I would be using. So drone is a broad term that we are using for any unmanned aircraft. Okay. And UAV means unmanned aerial vehicle. So it's an aircraft without a human pilot. So unmanned itself tells that there is no human pilot in it. So we call it as UAV. So UAV, these are components of unmanned aircraft system, that is UAS. So UAS comprises of UAV, then a ground station, which we call as GCC, ground control center, and communication between the two and things like that. Now, when you fly a drone, till where you can see the drone, that is called as the line of sight. Okay, so when you're flying something, you not on the screen, I'm talking about with your eyes, what you can see, that we call as a line of sight. And what the drone sees, that even what you're seeing on the screen, we call this as first person view. So the pilot can see where they're flying through the UAV's camera. This is called as FPV. So these are the four terms which I wanted you guys to know before I begin with. So drones these days, they are for recreation. A lot of people are using drones for flying, hobbies. Drone races are there. I don't know if you have heard of this. There's a drone called Stig, and it crosses 100 miles per hour speed. So you can just imagine the speed at which these Stig drones fly. So drones are used not only for recreation, but also nowadays even the pre-wedding, post-wedding, all these photographs, then documentaries, even movies, they're all shot using drones. So drones play a very important role apart from the military users, because you must have all seen the other day when our pilots they crossed the border, and Abhinandan ji was taken into custody and things like that. So when our pilots are flying the aircraft, there are two possibilities. One, the aircraft might encounter some trouble, and the second one is the pilot might encounter some trouble. So any of these two possibilities are possible. But when it comes to a drone, it is unmanned. So we can carry out not exactly the same, but somewhat similar operations using drones by safeguarding the lives of our pilots. So therefore, even the Indian Air Force is highly relying upon drones these days. Many drones are being manufactured which are used for warfare. And also the healthcare industry is these days using drones, where this is one drone with a first aid kit in it, and it also has the defibrillator. So you must be knowing, whenever a person gets a heart attack, then they give an electric shock to the chest. So that machine is called as defibrillator, automatic one. So these drones are fitted with that, so that whenever a person is somewhere far away and the ambulance would take some time to reach, the person can just or the person next to him can just give the exact GPS coordinates, and the drone would exactly come there with the first aid kit. So this way our quality of lives can also be improved. Now, talking about drones have got a lot of components in it. We will be seeing each of these components in some time, but I want you to know that it is not just what we see outside, but the main components of the drone are the ones that we cannot see, that is inside the drone. And my tryst with the drones, it started in the year 2016, in fact, where the work started in 2015, where I manufactured, not, I can't say manufactured because it is assembled again. So I assembled a few components and made a drone called as seed sowing drones. So this drone was launched in the year 2016, which had a lot of seed balls in it, especially the seed balls from the Western Ghats. So this drone had a camera, and from anywhere, from the ground station, I could just find out the exact location below. The camera would take the pictures and the videos and send. And if the land was barren, then I used to just press the controller and the seeds used to go and drop there. So since the seeds were dropped from a height, it would penetrate about 5 to 6 centimeters inside the ground. And the seed balls were made up of seed, red clay soil, then cow dung and cow urine. So this was a natural fertilizer and a manure kind of a thing. And the plants used to grow really well because I used to have the map through which the drone used to traverse. And I used to send the drone once again and take the videograph and come every 15 days so that we could monitor how the plants that were sown were growing. Now, the entire thing which I used to do manually, my students have started working on it and they have started making it automated by using AI. So the drone goes, it flies over a certain place, it takes pictures, it identifies whether the land is barren or not. If it is barren, it automatically sends the seeds there, drops the seeds, and it goes away. And after a few days, it comes, it checks, and it checks the progress. If required, it can even drop some manure. So things like that. So this is the era that we are living in, where these mechatronics blended with AI can do a lot which otherwise would have been difficult. So the importance of drone forensics are: number one, crime investigation; second, tracking the source from where the drone has come; and the third one is establishing direct links. I'm pretty sure that you must have seen, I think in Venezuela, the president, when he was giving his speech, one drone came and it suddenly started exploding. So what would somebody do? How would the law enforcement agencies handle such adversities? So this is the $1,000,000 question. So this is what I was talking about in Gujarat. The drone delivers pan masala. Okay, and the video had gone viral. So this happened on 12th of April 2020. So this is one. Then you must be knowing that people go to the ATMs and they come out, and you can have drones with a gun in it. Okay, so when somebody goes near the ATM, either the drone can shoot the person with a gun, or the drone can even record what that person is typing in the ATM, so that the ATM key can be, the pin can be captured. And also, if the ATM machine has got a skimmer or a shimmer, then even the details of the card can be captured. Also, as I said, drugs are rampant in most of the prisons of the world, and these drones are used to deliver drugs to some prisons, and this happened in Ohio. So then even the lethal weapon delivery happened in Oklahoma. So all these things are possible with drones. As I said, just like how it has got the benefits, there are also a lot of things. Now look at this hacking. The other day, this was carried out in one of the training sessions, where many people in the bus stops, they were sitting and they were searching for free Wi-Fi. So somebody just flew a drone there with the ESP, I think 8256, I think. I'm not very sure of the chip, but there's a chip which you can put it. So what it can do is that chip can disconnect you from the existing Wi-Fi network. So if anybody is interested, I have that project with me. I'll send it across to you. So what it does is it sends reset packets, and the reset packets, when it is sent in the Wi-Fi network, whichever network you're connected with, you just get disconnected. And these people used to show a fake SSID, and they used to show a fake Wi-Fi name, and they used to make people get connected. to the Wi-Fi network, which was not encrypted. So anything that the person was doing on by connecting to the Wi-Fi network, the drone used to capture the details. So this is how it is done in many places. So the drones can go give a Wi-Fi network to a large area and steal the information. And as you know, drones these days, they have also been procured by the ISIS. So the ISIS have started using drones, and recently, I don't know if you have heard of it, but in Saudi Arabia, in one of their biggest oil wells, drones came and they just attacked, and half of the oil wells was destroyed. So warfare drones are being used, and even for robbery. See, for example, you have left your bag somewhere, a drone can come and just pick that bag and it can go. So pick and drop drones are available. These are also these days they are assembled by high school students also, because we conduct programs for high school students, for PU students and degree students. Now for the high school students, they identify how to assemble the drones, and pick and drop is one of the basic experiments that they do. So this way burglaries also can happen. And you know that there are certain zones on over which the drone should not fly. These are called as no-fly zones, or restricted airspace. But still, you can get some Chinese drones which do not oblige to these no-fly zone restrictions, and they can fly, they can capture sensitive data and things like that. And also, whenever a raid happens, a drone can come and it can spray pepper spray, or it can put some fog somewhere, and it can make sure that the accused can escape. So a lot of things. And also these days we are hearing so many complaints. Police are getting so many complaints where people are staying in the high-rise buildings, say 20th floor and 30th floor and things like that. And they think that since there are no buildings nearby, they can roam around in their houses without clothes. So many of them do that. They don't wear clothes at home, or they have a bathroom which does not have a glass covering there, because they are on the top floor. And these drones go there and they capture these people, and the videos are recorded. So this is how it is done. And see, there was a lady who was sunbathing outside her house, and the photo was taken and it was put on a billboard. So you can just see how embarrassing it would be. So in the end, what I would like to tell is drones are getting smarter and smarter with the advent of artificial intelligence. So we need to be very careful while using the drones, and we should also be prepared for all the adversities that can happen, so that we can safeguard ourselves from the drones. So as you know, AI is artificial intelligence, which is a way in which you train the computer to think like humans. So a brief history about drones. So drones, the first one was in 1849, the Austrian balloons. So these Australian balloons were loaded with the explosives back then during the wars, and they should just fly these balloons, and it is to just go to the enemy place and it will just fall there and blast. So this is what happened. Then the new chapel and the first major American unmanned vehicles were in 1916. Then the aerial torpedoes came. Then the massive UAV came. 1982, the battlefield UAVs came. So all these things happened. So 1986 is where the reconnaissance drones came. So reconnaissance is a way in which you gather information. So it was a joint project of US and Israel, where they started, they started gathering data. So this is what happened. So then in the 1990s started Predator drones. And this was used for the very famous, what is that? Your hunting down of Osama bin Laden. So this was in the year 2000. Then in 2014, the delivery drone started, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, you have these DJI drones, you have these programmable Tello drones, so Parrot drones. So many drones are there, especially for startups. But first, you need to know how are drones classified. So they are classified on these following aspects: either on the basis of how many rotors, that is, how many wings they have, or what is their weight, what is their size, what range, how much far they can go, and what are the applications. So based on these. So what is a rotor? So rotor is basically for the propulsion and control. So it's a fan. You see, usually the drones that you see have got 4 rotors, which some people call as fans. So what do these do? They create thrust. They make sure that the drone takes off. Now look at these multi-rotor drones. So you have drones with many rotors, single rotor, fixed wing drones, hybrid drones. So hybrid is having wing as well as a rotor. So these type of drones are possible. These are called as based on rotors. Then you have the ones based on weight, less than 250, above 250, less than 2, less than 25 kilo, and finally greater than 150 kilos. So these are the type of drones, especially in India. Below 250 grams, you do not need a unique identification for the drones, and above 250 grams, you have to register on Digital Sky platform. So there is a platform in India called as Digital Sky. So if you are using the drones, then it is better to go for the Digital Sky platform and register. Otherwise, your drones will be confiscated. And based on applications, you know, the drones can be a type of mission drones, like for military or civil, can be flight zone, that is indoor or outdoor, or based on environment. So whether it goes underwater, above water, ground, then on water, then air, space, things like that. Okay, so these are the different types of applications, and finally based on size. So you have very small, medium, and large. So very small is anything between 1 to 100. That's in centimeters. Then you have then you have the small UAVs. Then you have the medium UAVs, and then you have the large ones. Okay, so this is on the based of size. So lesser than, if you're talking in meters, then it's lesser than 1 meter, lesser than 10 meters, and lesser than 20 meters. So the large ones are lesser than 20 meters. And finally, on the basis of range, you know that drones are usually powered by battery. So how long can they fly? So you have drones usually which fly for about 5 to 10 minutes, but the good ones fly for about 30 minutes, some fly for 50 minutes, 60 minutes, but you have these endurance drones which can fly even for 36 hours. Mid-range drones can fly for up to 650 kilometers, and short-range ones for 8 to 12 hours. But the ones that we usually have, they're the small ones, the very low-cost ones. So maximum up to 5 kilometers it can fly, from 20 minutes to 45 minutes. So based on the range, you have the different types of drones. Well, so just wanted you to know how fast can drones fly. So the ones that the photographers use, the DJI Mavic, so that's about 42.5 miles per hour. Okay, and I was talking about the Stig, one of the fastest drones, that's about 128 miles per hour, roughly about 200 kilometer per hour. So you can just imagine the speed at which these drones fly. So usually the ones that are used for photography, it is about 42 to 40 and 45 miles per hour. And these drones also have different modes. One is the normal flying mode, and the other one is called as the race mode, or the speed mode, sports mode it is called. So once you put it on sports mode, they behave totally differently. They are more like a race car that you need to control. So drones are fun to fly. And some of the most popular drones, the fastest drones are, one is the Dassault Neuron, that is from France, flies at 980 kilometer per hour. So you can imagine the speed at which these drones fly. And unfortunately, Indian drones are not there in the top ones. I hope and pray that we will be having some of our drones very soon. You have the Israeli Hermes drones, you have the Chinese Rainbow drones, you have the Korean drones, and the Grey Eagle drones and things like that. So many different drones are there. So 980 kilometer per hour currently is the Dassault Neuron, one of the fastest drones. And some of the drones that are used for commercial purposes like filmmaking is DJI Mavic 2, the Skydio, then for construction inspections. So you know that when you build a building, earlier the contractor used to every time go up and come down and things like that, but now you don't have to do all that. You can send the drones and you can take pictures, and it can only reconstruct, and it can tell if things are fine, and it can even check whether the alignment is proper or not. Then you also have some other drones for indoor inspections like flyability, Helios. You have for agriculture, that is for pesticide spraying, for seed dropping, for checking the weeds, because there are drones which can check if there are weeds. So there are many popular commercial drones. No, now the point here is, why do the drones fly, or why does the airplane fly and the cars don't? Because you must be knowing, if you have sat on an aeroplane, the plane before takeoff, it goes about 100 to 150 kilometers per hour, and then it just takes off. But why the cars, when you go at 100 to 150, it does not take off? That's because of the aerodynamics. So usually the cars are designed in such a way that they don't take off, they don't get the lift. They see to it that the force that is acting downwards is much beyond. That is why it keeps kissed to the roads. It does not fly. And some of the fast cars, the race cars you must have seen, they also have at the back side a special component called as a spoiler, and many of them put the spoilers just for fun or just to make the car look aesthetically brilliant. But usually the spoilers are there so that the car does not fly at top speeds. So what we are basically doing is we are trying to lower the drag by the design so that cars don't fly. Okay, so the for any airplane to fly, we need four forces that need to be balanced. So the thrust which the engine generates, so when the engine generates the thrust, so the plane moves forward, and when it moves forward, there is a resistance by the air, which we call as the drag, that moves backward. And then as the plane takes off, the force is called as lift, and as it takes off, the gravity sees to it that it puts it down, so this is called as the weight. So basically four forces: thrust, lift, drag and weight. I won't be getting into the details, not a physics class today, but still I wanted you to know that four forces, only when they are in equilibrium you will have the flying. So the same things are managed just with the use of rotors in the drones. The forces remain the same because the law of physics do not change whether it is a helicopter or whether it is an aeroplane or whether it is a drone. But all these things are done just with the what? With the propellers. Now the point here is this propeller is not only used to take the drone up, but the same propellers, just by their rotation and the direction of rotation and the speed of rotation, can make the drone move left, right, go further backward, go up and down. So all these things are possible just by the propellers. So I want you to know which are the movements of the drones. You know that drones have got basically three movements. One is called as pitch, second is called as yaw, and the third one is called as roll. So these are the three movements in the horizontal plane. Okay, so going up and down of the drone is the vertical plane, but we are going to talk about the horizontal plane, so that is pitch. So pitch is basically moving front and back. So the drone moving front and back is called as pitch. Okay, moving forward and backward. Then you have yaw. So yaw is the drone moving in a clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction. So this is basically done in the movie shooting. See, for example, you want to show a 360-degree panoramic photo or a 180-degree panoramic photo. So the drone remains stationary and it just rotates clockwise, or it rotates anti-clockwise, and it takes the pictures of the entire area. So this is called as yaw. Similarly, you have roll. So roll is moving left and right. So we saw pitch. Pitch is moving front and back. Roll is moving left and right. Yaw is moving clockwise and anti-clockwise. So these are the three movements, 3 into 2. So that is 6 movements of the drone. And when it comes to the vertical plane, because that which we saw was the horizontal plane. So the vertical plane, basically there are 3 movements again. One is going up, called as ascend, one is coming down, which is called as descend, and the third one is standing still, that is called as hover still. I repeat, going up is ascend, coming down is descend, and staying there. You must have seen at times the drone just stops at a particular location mid-air without moving anywhere. So this is called as hover. So here there are some pictures which I have put. So for the drone to take up, for the drone to go up, it has to see to it that the blades 1 and 3 move in the clockwise direction, and the blade 4 and 2 they move in the anti-clockwise direction, and they need to move in such a way that the drone will go up. Okay, similarly for descend it is the same thing, but the speed has to decrease. And for hover again it is the same way, but then all the things, all the rotors will be in the equal speed. So the speeds also I have written, I will just show it to you. And for you know that you have a controller with the drone, and both each controller will have two sticks. Okay, so the sticks are used for the directions, for changing the directions of the drone. So you move the stick to the left, the drone would move right. Okay, and then you move the stick to the right, it goes to the left side. And then take the stick on the top, it goes upwards, and take the stick down, it goes on downwards. So this way you can change the direction of the drone by using sticks. Now I want you to know, for the drone to go up, down, left, right, rotate left, rotate right, all these things, the blades have to rotate in clockwise or anti-clockwise, one, and also the speed has to differ. See, for example, let us see the E where the throttle ascend, where the drone has to go up. For the drone to go up, all the four blades, 1, 2, 3, 4, has to rotate at the same speed, and 1 and 3 will be clockwise, 2 and 4 will be anti-clockwise. Okay, now that in that same rotation, 1 and 3 in clockwise, 2 and 4 in anti-clockwise, if the speed reduces, the drone would come down. Look at that, that is F. So if the blade color is green, that means it is slower, and if the blade color is red, that means it is faster. Now if the drone has to turn clockwise, that is H, where 2 and 4 should be anti-clockwise or anti-clockwise, 1 and 3 will be clockwise. Similarly, if 1 and 3 is faster and 2 and 4 is slower, it will yaw counterclockwise, and if it is 1 and 3 will be slower, 2 and 4 will be faster. See the other way around, then it will be yaw clockwise. Similarly, going front, coming back, and all these things, you can see it in the image here. Now why did I tell this is because you need to know how the drone flies. Number one, what are the different movements of the drone, because when it comes to forensics, when you see certain data there, you should know whether the drone was, what was the drone doing at that particular time, whether it was going left or right or coming up, down. So in order to generate the map, we need all these things. So drones are basically the multi-rotor drones, where there are many rotors in it. So it can be from one rotor to many rotors. So 4 rotors is called quadcopter, then 3 is called as tricopter, 6 is called as H6 copter, then you have you also call them as hexcopter, then you have 8 octocopter, things like that. Okay, now coming to the main part of the drones. So which are the electronics that are involved in the drone? So this is a very important question, part of the drone. So it's about the electronics that are involved, because when we're talking about forensics, we need to know what are those components in the drone, because whenever you get a drone, so what information can extract from different components. So the first one is a frame. So frame is the main part of the drone on which all the other parts are attached. This is more like a motherboard of the computer, where everything else is attached to the motherboard. So this is the frame. Frame can be wooden, carbon fiber, or it can printed circuit board, it can be plastic, epoxy laminate, or aluminum. So these are some of the different materials that are used, and I've also made a comparison of how can be, what is the strength and the advantage, and what is the cost. So the best of the drones, again, if they are carbon fiber drones or the aluminum drones also. So, but carbon fiber drones are very expensive. Okay, and so this is how the drones are. If it is wood, if it is ABS or aluminum, so this is the chart. So similarly, uh, we saw that time the different types of rotors. So multi-rotor drones. So the rotors are basically motors. So what are these motors? These motors are fans. In simple words, if you have to tell. Now, what these fans do, they rotate. Now, there are two types of motors: brushed DC motors and brushless motors. And the brushed DC motors are cheaper, but they wear off very quickly. And the brushless DC motors, they are slightly expensive and they are long lasting, and that is why most of the drones these days come with brushless DC motors. So the advantage of brushless DC motors are high efficiency, no maintenance, and high output of the power. But only disadvantages is slightly more complicated motor and slightly expensive. Okay, then you have something called as the ESC. Now we saw, you have seen this. Let me come back. You've seen this, yeah. The same four rotors on the drone. If they go faster and if they go slower, automatically the position of the drone changes. Now, how does the speed of the motor change? The speed of the motor changes because there is a component called as ESC, which is an electronic speed controller, which converts the DC battery power into three-phase AC for driving the brushless motor. So ESC is responsible for the speed. Similarly, you have the propellers which are connected to the motors, which are the spinning blades of the drones. Now these propellers again can be 2 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches, depending upon the size of the drone. So propellers can be either polycarbonate or nylon carbonate composite. So nylon carbon composite, or which you call as the carbon fiber, that is expensive, but they are very strong and they are very much more efficient. Then you have the batteries. The batteries are very important because better the battery, then more power your drone will have, and also the drone would fly for a longer time. So that is very important for us. So the drone batteries, either they're the lithium ion polymer batteries, or the lithium ion batteries, or the lithium polymer high voltage. So we prefer high voltage drones batteries, because when the drone battery is high voltage, which usually they come in red color, you can see that high voltage, the 1300 mAh, both of them are, but the ones high voltage ones come in red color, because these are more, they're responsive. The drones are more responsive. For example, you want the speed. See, now why do we like the BMW cars, or why do we like those Audi cars? Because you hit the accelerator, it touches 0 to 100 in 5 seconds or 6 seconds. Now why the initial thrust comes? Because it knows how to generate torque very efficiently. So similarly, if you want more torque, if you want that more Newton meter force as soon as you hit the throttle of your controller, then more power should be released to the motors, for the motors to go rotate extremely fast, and the more power is only released by high voltage batteries. So high voltage batteries are slightly expensive than the LiPo batteries. So the lithium polymer batteries and the high voltage batteries. So that's the difference. So whenever you are taking a battery, when you are selecting a battery, you need to check for how many cells are there, what is the voltage of the battery, what is the milliampere per hour, and you also need to know the discharging ratio. That is the maximum power the battery can discharge. So better the discharge ratio, more efficient or more responsive your drone gets. Well, now you have the brain of the drone, which is called as the flight controller. So flight controller is the brain of the drone, to which all the sensors are connected, and which is basically when you send some signal to the drone, it knows what to do. So who processes that? So that is done by the flight controller. So they use certain algorithms to calculate how fast each motor is going, how it has to behave. It takes the data from the sensors, and it decides how the drone has to fly. And then you have the controller, which has got two features: transmission and receiving. So TX and RX, there are different types of controllers. So basically controllers are used to control the drone. So we call this as telemetry radio system. Okay, and look at this. You have two sides of the controllers here, left and the right. So the left one is used for law left and law right, and then you have yaw right, and then you have the throttle up and throttle down, and roll left and roll right. You have the pitch down and pitch up. So these are the different um, the different, what should I say, the movements of the drone, just by using the left side and the right side of the controller. Okay. So some people don't use the regular hardware controllers, but they download a software. There are many software that are available, which you can just download from your app store, and you can control the drone using your mobile phone itself. So these are called as software controllers. But when it comes to the responsiveness, software controllers are slightly slower while compared to the hardware controller. And then some of the drones also have got the landing gears. You have the fixed landing gears, you have the retractable ones, so which can go back when the drone is flying, and then you have the water landing gears. So some drones would love to land on the water. So in that case, so that the drone doesn't get washed away, you have these water landing gears. And then the main important part of the drones, that is the sensors. So drones have got different sensors in them, and we will be seeing which are those sensors. Of course, they would be communicating with the flight controller. So which are the different sensors? So the drones have got a magnetometer, accelerometer, gyroscope, barometer, and the transistors. So these are basically the main component. Magnetometer is used to identify which is the magnetic north of the earth, so that the drone knows whether it is flying east, west, north, or south. So the drone basically identifies the magnetic north and it goes. Then you have the accelerometer and the gyroscope for the tilt, the pressure sensors for the barometric pressure sensors to identify how much pressure is there. So all these things are clubbed together and put in one single chip, which is called as IMU, which is called inertial measuring unit. Okay, and then drones also have got GPS in it. So the nano GPS chip is there. So what it does is it identifies the exact precise location. So GPS based drones know where they are, and also pre-programmed, if they know where exactly to go. And these days you also have the IRNSS. It's a very proud feat for India, which is the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. So the other day we had a few of the scientists from ISRO who had come to meet me, and they in fact gave their IRNSS, that is the NAVIC chips. NAVIC stands for Navigation with Indian Constellation. So the NAVIC chips were given, and usually the drones we used to put them with GLONASS or GPS chips. And we recently put the IRNSS because all the 7 satellites are in orbit. So we put the IRNSS chip in our drone and we flew them, and they were brilliant. So, but the only flip side is IRNS chips works only within Indian subcontinent. You cannot use them in some other continent. And then you also have a range finder, which can be used for identifying the obstacles. You must have seen some drones. You take the drone and you just throw it on the in the air, and if there is a wall nearby, it would never go and hit the wall. As soon as it reaches near the wall, it would just come back as if it's a magnet that is repelling. You know that north and south, if you can get them together of the magnet, they would just repel. So these are called as the range finders. So the range finders or the obstacle avoidance can be either infrared, or it can be camera based vision sensors, or it can be ultrasonic. Some you also use a lidar, some also use monocular vision and things like that. So obstacle detection and avoidance is very important. These cheap drones that usually we fly for recreation, about for 5,000, 4,000 rupees that you get, they usually don't have these chips. But if you go for a good DJI or any of the good drones, then yes, the obstacle avoidance, collision avoidance and obstacle detection becomes normal. And also, most of the drones would also be having an external device which is connected to it, which we call as a gimbal. So now what this gimbal does is, some call it as gimbal, some call it as gimbal, but anyways, how you call it doesn't matter. You just need to know what it does. So the gimbal, what it does is basically you connect it to the drone, and it is a three-axis stabilizer. So three-axis stabilizer means when your drone flies, there would be a lot of vibration and a lot of movement of your camera. But if you put this three-axis stabilizer gimbal on your, if your drone has got a gimbal, then what happens is automatically the videos that are recorded are so smooth that they look cinematographic. Okay, and also I think now that the online classes have started, many teachers also would have bought this device. I have one. This is a DJI Osmo 3. So you can just connect your phone to it, and it has also got a stand. You just put it to the stand and keep it somewhere away from you. And as you move towards the blackboard, around the blackboard, the drone would automatically, it would focus on you, it would move and it would focus on you. It looks very futuristic, but that is how they function. So they can identify the subject, and it can focus exactly on the subject, and if the subject moves, the camera also would move towards the direction of the subject. So basically the three components for a perfect flight are gyro stabilization, which it can be a 3-axis or a 6-axis stabilization. Then you have flight controller. Then you have a IMU, that is the inertial measurement unit. As I said, the inertial measurement unit has got the sensors in them. So the sensors are usually the barometric, the gyroscope, the accelerometer, and some other sensors also. Well, now you have the ground control stations. So the ground control station is a land-based or a sea-based control center, which is used to control the UAV. So sometimes what happens is the drones, if you are flying it by yourself, then it is just within the line of sight. But sometimes you let the drone go somewhere else, and you need to get the front person view, the first person view, FPV. So how do you get that? You have a ground control station which communicates constantly with the drone. You get to see what the drone is seeing, and also you can control the drone as you want. If you want to call it back, you can call it back. If you want it to do certain activity, you can do that. So in forensics, even if you can get the ground control station, you can infer a lot of information. So basically the GCS hardware is this way. So they have high powered antenna, and they have a screen which can see the FPV from the drone, and then you have certain controls which can control the drone as you want. And on the screen you can also get the map that has been traced by the drone. So this is very important for us, very important for us in our forensics, because we get to know where the drone has gone, from where it took off, so you know who was the person who had sent it and things like that. So basically this is a DAT file that you can extract from the drone, and once you get that file, you can map it on a software. I'll be discussing about the software in some time. So all the coordinates, the waypoints are there. You get the lat long coordinates and you get to map the exact route through which the drone has traversed. So basically the uses of GCS are to design the flight path, to monitor the drone, live video monitoring, to understand any flight errors, to understand the position of the drone, real-time position, and to call the drone back in case of emergency situations. Okay, just give me a second. So now you have the drones. We saw that you have these controllers which can be used to control. So there are different modes of controlling, mode 1 and mode 2. Let's not get into that details, because usually these days the drones are controlled in the way that I had shown you earlier. But you need to understand that these controllers run on RF spectrum, that is the radio frequency spectrum, from 3 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. Okay, so this is basically the RF spectrum through which the controllers are functional. Okay. Well, so now let's see the different spectra. Now in the radio spectrum that we have seen, the radio waves, you have the different types of signals, UHF, VHF, HF, and things like that. So the drones, again, there are different drones that function at different frequencies. So this is a branch which is called as telemetry, which deals with how much bandwidth is needed and what is the distance of communication between the controller and the drone. So we use different frequencies. As you know, the lesser the frequency, what happens is the distance traveled is more, but the communication data is lesser. So more the frequency, lesser the distance, and more the communication data. So that same concept again is used in your mobile phones also, where if you have a 900 spectrum, then automatically you need just one tower instead of two, because it can traverse a very long distance. But when it comes to 1.8 tower, then the distance traveled is lesser, but you can get more connections, you can have more bandwidth. So basically the same concept is used, and I said this is called as telemetry. So telemetry is the data transmitted from the radio receiver back to the radio transmitter. So this is how it is. So there are different protocols that we use. So the drone would be having a radio receiver, that is RX, and we transmit the data from the transmitter using the TX protocol. Okay, so now let's see what are the different types of flights that are there. So there are three types of flights. First one is you control the drone. This is called as manual. Another one is the drone knows what to do, but still you control them. This is called as semi-autonomous. And last one is totally autonomous, where you don't control the drone at all. So this is called as autonomous. So basically there are three types of flights: manual flights, semi-autonomous, and autonomous flights. All right. Well, and these days you have the programmable drones. So the drones which even the kids these days are using them, because you have some very interesting tools which can be used to learn programming, and also you can see the program that you have written getting executed on the drone. For example, you can have a drone that can identify colors, you can have a drone that can go through a certain path, you can have a drone that can pick certain objects, so things like that. So DJI Tello is one of the popular drones that I use, which can be used for programming. And the most common language that is used for programming is Python. So if you're good in Python, you can program the drones. So now we are coming to the detection part. Okay, so detection means the technology that is used to detect the drones. Now see, for example, let us assume that the chief minister is going to deliver a session, or is going to address the gathering, and suddenly one drone will come from nowhere. Okay, now whether the law enforcement agencies would be able to detect that drone there. So that is the whole point. One is detecting the drone. Second is capturing the drone. Third is analyzing the data from the drone. Now, when it comes to this, it is not only enough to detect, as I just said. So once you detect, you should also be able to see to it that the drone is taken away, or at least the dangers that can be caused by the drone is mitigated. So this needs to be done. So basically there are four types of equipment that we use. One is the radio frequency analyzer, acoustic sensors, optical sensors, and radar. So these are some of the devices that are used. Okay, so depending upon the budget that you have, you can use RF analyzers. RF analyzers can cost low, but not very accurate again. Then you have these acoustic sensors, not very good again, because it tries to hear the drones just with the sound, and these days the brushless DC motors, they don't make much of sound again, and in a noisy environment they don't work. Then you have these drones which are with a built-in camera, that is good. And then finally, see, you can take it anywhere and you can identify. So there are different types of drone detecting methods, but the point is, once you detect the drone, you need to what you need to do is you need to capture the drone. So physically destroying the drone, neutralizing the drone, or taking control of the drone. Now the point here is, there are some laser guns that are available. So as soon as the drone is coming, you can just point the laser gun to it, and the drone just burns off. So this technology is there in the US. So if you try to fly a drone near the some of the important airports, it would just burn it off. Okay, one. But the problem with the burning of the drones is, you will not be able to get any information from the drone, because you know that everything in the drone is stored in the flight controller. Now, the flight controller itself, if it gets burned, what are you going to do? You will not be able to get any information out of it. So this is how the problem is. Also, there are some other methods like RF jammers you can use. So if you use RF jammer, the drone will not be able to communicate with a controller. Now the problem with that is, there are many drones these days that are autonomous, which do not need a controller at all. So in that case, the drone can just come even if there is an RF jammer. But yes, there is something called GPF spoofer. So this is important. Now, for example, you have told the drone to come to a location of a certain altitude, latitude, and longitude. But you use a GPS spoofer which generates fake GPS signals, and the drone thinks that it is in the wrong location and it would go somewhere else, or you are confusing the drone. It will never enter your territory because it thinks it is wrong. And then you can use high power microwave devices which can burn off the drone. You can use these guns. You get these specialized guns with projectiles. So as you shoot the drone, a big net gets expanded, and it will go and capture the drone, and it would have a small parachute, so that the parachute would safely land the drone down, and this way you can capture the drone and you can gather information from the drone. Okay, this is one of the best methods according to me. Then you have the high energy laser guns which would just evaporate the drones. Then yes, there are some birds of prey. Many eagles and vultures are trained to go and catch the drones. So what they do is they just go, they catch the drone and they get, but the trade-off here is some of the eagles have even lost their legs, because the rotors of the drones would not stop when the eagle comes and catches it, and it would even cut the legs of the birds. So not a very ethical way of catching drones. Then you have a method where you are integrating all of them together. So these are some of the ways. So this is a high power EMP gun. EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse. So what you can do is you can aim bursts of EMP to the drone, and the drone would come down. But again, the problem here is the EMP would damage all the chips that are there inside, the microprocessors and other chips inside the drone, making it very difficult for you to extract any information from the drone. So you can use RF jammers or EMP. So these are some of the anti-drone measure. This is the flying net I was talking about. So it's a huge gun with a projectile. You shoot the projectile and it goes, it opens up into a huge net, it captures the drone and it comes. But again, the problem here is only within the line of sight you can do that. You cannot fire the projectile very far and you cannot get it. So every process has got a trade-off. Okay, so high power lasers can be used for getting the drones, and this is how the eagles can go. The eagle can go and catch the drone and it can get it back, because these eagles are trained to catch the drones. So now once the drone is collected, so you need to have the required screwdrivers in order to open it, because very few drones are GSM drones. Now what are GSM drones is a drone in which you put a SIM card. So those drones will also have an IMEI number. So the SIM card is put inside the drone and the drone would function as per the signals that you emit from your phone, because they're connected to some cell tower. But the problem is they are efficient, no doubt, but the only problem is they're slow, because these signals travel really slow from the cell's tower. So not many people use GSM based drones. Not that they're not there, but they don't use them for critical applications. They prefer radio controlled drones itself, because they are extremely fast and responsive. So you need the right set of screwdrivers. Once you open the drone, you will be getting all these, getting to see all these parts in the drone. Now you can see here obstacle avoidance and collision avoidance and obstacle detection sensors. You can see a IMU there. You can see a flight controller there. So once you tear down the drone, you get the various components in the drone. Okay. Once you get the various components, now what you need to do is the drones, once captured, shall be handled carefully. Okay. Don't please go to do this, because today I'm just giving you an overview of the whole thing. I'm not telling you in detail, because in 1.5 hours there is nothing that I can tell in detail, but you would be just having an idea about what I'm talking about. All right. So what you will be doing is you will be using your basic knowledge in order to take that. Okay, and just give me a second. Okay. So what you're going to do is you make sure that the drones are cleaned properly, because the drone has fallen down. Then check the corrections with a multimeter for any short circuits, because if the battery is exposed and if it touches the flight controller directly, then a problem of short circuit can happen. So take a multimeter and just try to check for any short circuits, differentiate between working and non-working parts, and secure the storage parts and clean it thoroughly without damaging it. Okay. So once that is done, you can recover. What are the things that you can recover? You can recover the serial number, the MAC address, the IMEI, and the IMSI. You can also get the version number of the firmware. You can also get metadata. Metadata is like the waypoint logs, the GPS signals, from where it was launched and things. You can also get the geolocation information for critical locations, like as I said, launching, landing, and the return to home. See, all the drones will have something called as return to home, RTH, which means in case the signal is lost or the drone, there is some malfunction in the drone, it needs to know where to come back. So you need to specify that location so that it can come back, because these days they don't allow you to fly a drone if it doesn't have the return to home feature. So if the return to home is enabled, you know where it is going back. So most of your problems are solved by that, because you get to know the location. Then the full flight path information. You can also get some data of the Wi-Fi data, like which are the devices that are connected, the SSID you can get. Then you can also get the MAC address, and you can also get the IP address, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the things that you can get. The Bluetooth information, the paired devices, the timestamps and things. So in order to extract information, basically you need the cables. Okay, so cables are used to connect the drones, and then you need a computer. So what you need to do is either a mobile phone and then you have the drone, and then if there is an SD card, you need to take the SD card out. Okay, so we use a software. I'm talking about the DJI here. We use a software called as the DJI Go 4, and we go to the flight records there, and when we open the folder called flight records, we get a .dat file. So from that DAT file, we can get a lot of information. That is DAT files, flight logs. We can get in the text files. We can get flight logs from mobile phone. We can also get DAT files from drone. So we can do this in an automatic way by using certain tools, or we can do it manually. Okay, and then you take the flight controller out, and from the flight controller you can see these are the different parts of it. Okay, so you can connect them, and you can try to get more information out of this, because it would be having the memory, and then even if the flight controller is not working, then you can use certain techniques called as JTAG or chip off, and you can get some more information out of it. And some of the software that we use, one is the Ardo Pilot. It is very nice. Then you can use the PX4 Autopilot. So this is again one more software, and then you have the Beta Flight software. So these are Clean Flight, Liber Pilot. So these are some of the software that are used for analysis, and not that all of them give the same data. In some you get, so what we usually do is we use 3-4 software, and we connect that particular drone to all the 4, and we collect the data, and then we do a subset, and we see what are the information that are matching, not matching, or what are the newer informations that we can get. So some of the tools again that are used for analyzing are Mission Planner, Q-Ground Control, Drone Plotter, DATCON, etc. Okay, and once you download the information, then the data flash logs are stored on the autopilot's onboard data flash memory, and it can be downloaded only after the flight. So once you download them, you can connect them to your software, and it gives you the exact flight path of the particular drone where it has traversed in the Mission Planner. So you can have a Mission Planner software. You go to flight data, you upload that DAT file, and you get the exact location through which the drone has gone. Okay, so anyways, I wanted to show a demo analysis, because this usually we show it practically, but here it is not possible for me to show it to you. But maybe sometime I also invite all of you to visit me when you come, if you come down to Mangalore, because we've got a setup here, and I would be happy to show you the various attacks that can be carried out on the drones. Because we use a XB man in the middle attack. So you have the controller, you have the drone. So we use a XB attack in order to take the control of the drone from the ground control station or from the remote controller, and we can start controlling the drone. So these are some of the techniques that we can use, and we can get the information from the drones. So these attacks would hardly cost about 3,500 rupees, but they are used if your drones are not properly programmed, or if they are not good enough. Taking control of the drones is very easy. So that is why when you fly drones, especially over my house, you need to be careful, because you might not get your drone back, as I can probably take control of your drone on a lighter note. But that's what. So the lessons learned by this are we need to use strong encryption. This is very important. We need to alter the passphrases, and we need to test our product regularly. And also another 2-3 things is whenever there are any patches available, we need to patch it and ensure that no vulnerabilities are left open. So 10 things to know before taking off your first drone is: start small. Flight in open spaces, see that there are no buildings nearby, read the entire manual, and it is also better to use a flight simulator first and try to fly it on a simulator, and then you can actually fly the drone. Inspect your drone, check the battery, respect the weather. If it is raining, please, unless you have a waterproof drones and you know that they're very expensive, learn the laws of the drone. You can go to the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA website, and you can download the laws which are there for the drone. and then have the latest firmware installed, because if you are using outdated firmware, then chances of hacking them are easier. And then don't be afraid, have fun. So what is I was talking about a flight simulator. So flight simulator is exactly what it sounds like. So it's a software program that is used to simulate flying a drone. So you're using a real drone controller, but you are seeing it on a computer screen. So you can also use the DJI flight simulator, which is one of the best simulators, and also to check whether the drone is properly aligned. We call that process as calibrating. So calibrating is setting or correcting the errors that are caused by inaccurate sensor measurements. So just before flying the drone, there is a button there called calibrate. So if you use the calibrate button, then you can make the drone properly calibrated. Just like the GPS, sometimes when you're using the GPS, it asks you to draw 8. So when you draw 8, the GPS inside your phone gets calibrated. So this is called calibration. And if still there are some errors, we can use trimming. So DJI Flight Simulator is one of the best simulators that I have been using. They're very nice. Similarly, Zephyr is there, Drone Sim Pro is there, Phoenix and Real Flight and Quadcopter. So many hot props, many simulators are there. But DJI is good because we usually use the DJI flight simulators. And if you are using a drone in India, then it is recommended you go to Digital Sky platform, that is digitalsky.dgca.gov.in. You can register your drones there. You can download the drone laws. As I said, below 250 grams, you don't need the license, you don't need the UID, but you can't fly the drone above 50 feet. Okay, and if it is above 250, yes, then you will have to register the drone. Otherwise, the law enforcement agencies can come and confiscate your drones. So drone laws and policies are there. All drones except the nano category must be registered, and the permit is required for commercial drones and to fly above 50 feet. And drone pilots must maintain a line of sight, and drones cannot be flown more than 400 feet vertically, and drones cannot be flown in no-fly zones near airports, Vijay Chowk, then your Vidhan Sauda and military installations. And permissions to fly in controlled airspace can be obtained by sending a request to the ADC with the Flight Information Center. So this is the Civil Aviation Requirement 2.0, the newer one which they had recently sent, which you can download from the DGCA Digital Sky portal. And nowadays they are telling it is mandatory to have a GPS, return to home, which I told you, in case your drone doesn't have some, if it has a problem, where it has to come back, anti-collision light, then ID plate with the unique identification, flight controller with data logging capability, and no permission, no takeoff. That is, if they do not give you the permission, you should not be able to take off your drone. So this is called as NPNT. And as per the Indian Constitution and IPCs, IPCs such as 287, 336, 337, 338 and other relevant sections are applicable as penalties as per the sections of the Aircraft Act. So you have to be careful, Aircraft Act and the IPCs. So these two are there in order to govern the airspace, because so far exclusive laws for drones we don't have. We are using the Aircraft Act along with IPCs. So this is the latest one, the RPAS guideline by the DGCA. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, you can scan this, or you can visit the website dgca.nic.in/car/d3x-x1.pdf. So this talks about the requirements for operation of remote piloted aircraft system, RPAS. So the thing is, don't fly aircraft when it's crowded. Do not have anything weighing more than 7 kilo in total. Do not suspend or have any items there. Do not use hazardous substances. Do not drop or discharge any items. You must be thinking, how did I drop the seed balls? Of course, after taking permission. Okay, then do not fly where you may interfere with the emergency service providers. Do not fly over restricted areas and not anywhere near 5 kilometers from the airport. So misuse of the drones are for spying, destroying property, injuring people, weaponized drones, smuggling drones, and prison contraband. Please don't use this. If you do, you will end up in suit. So anyways, so this is me. My name is Dr. Anand Prabhuji, and I serve as a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Sahyadri, adjunct law faculty at Judicial Academy of Karnataka, and cyber security adjunct faculty at the Karnataka Police Academy. So this is my contact number, my email address, and my Facebook. So if you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you very much.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask with sir now. Sir is ready to answer your questions. Participants can ask for the questions. If anybody wants to ask question, you can unmute yourself and ask for a question.
Okay, and if they still have any questions, this is my email address. I have given the email address, and if people want the PPT of today's presentation, I don't mind sending it across. They can have a look at the PPT and they can learn. They can learn more things by checking it out.
Yes, participants, if you have any queries, you can post in the chat box or you can ask sir directly.
I think we'll close it, ma'am. If they have any questions, let them ask me.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Sir, thank you for the informative session. We have learned many things under drones, so which were not good. So the session was very much interesting.
There's a question whether can be used for advertising present. Yes, can a lot of gas sensors are used for drones. Gas sensors are used, pressure sensors are used, different sensors. Of course, they are used, but the only thing is we need to ensure that the gas will not harm the drone. So that needs to be checked, and then we need to send, because depending upon the type of the reaction of the gas. For example, if the gas would react with aluminium, then we'll have to go with a wooden framed drone or a carbon on that. But any sensors that you want, it can be embedded to the drones, and it. Anyways, so thank you for that, and some people have thanked me. So thank you very much. I look forward to be in touch with all of you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Gopalan College of Engineering and Management, we are looking forward for some more sessions from you sir, in the near future. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, you can attend afternoon session. You can leave for a day. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you, one and all.